Not everyone has enough money to buy a good gaming PC, and honestly, most YouTube builds don't really help. They call a $500 or $600 PC budget, but for a lot of people, that's still way too much. I know that feeling because before I had a PC, I was in the same place. So today, I'm building something different, a real budget gaming PC. For just $169, using parts that are easy to find and hopefully powerful enough to play almost anything you throw at it. So in this video, I'll show you every part, every step, and whether this cheap PC can actually deliver. Let's get started. The easiest thing we could do here is just buy a pre-built PC. So I started searching on Amazon using the keyword gaming PC, then lowered the budget filter as far as I could. And honestly, the results were depressing. There were barely any actual computers. Most of the listings were just empty cases, random parts, or accessories pretending to be gaming setups. I did find one or two complete systems, but almost all of them were basically office PCs, the kind where the CPU handles everything, workload, graphics, video output, because there's no dedicated graphics card inside. And if you actually want decent gaming performance, a real GPU is non-negotiable. So yeah, this option was pretty much a dead end. So at this point, there was really only one option left: build the PC ourselves. With a budget of just $169, I knew exactly where most of the money had to go: the CPU and the GPU, because realistically, those are the two parts that matter the most for gaming. So my plan was simple: around $70 for the CPU and GPU combined, and the remaining $100 for literally everything else. Naturally, I started searching for the CPU and GPU first, because those are the parts I can't really compromise on too much. But on Amazon, not happening. Prices there were way higher than what I needed. So I immediately moved to eBay. I capped the search at $30, and honestly, the results were rough. Most of the CPU I found were ancient and incredibly weak, barely usable for gaming at all. And the GPU? Even worse. Almost everything had just 1 or 2 gigabytes of RAM, and most of those cards were over 15 years old. At that point, reality started hitting me. There was just no way I could build a decent gaming PC from completely separate parts with this little money. I didn't want to waste $169 on a machine that would end up being completely useless. So I started thinking about another option: old office PC from companies getting liquidated. And from my experience, the sweet spot is usually systems using socket 1151 V1 or V2. They're not modern, but they're also not ancient fossils either, which makes them a really interesting value option. Most of these office systems were originally built to run using integrated graphics only, so they never needed a dedicated GPU. But thankfully, almost all of them still come with at least one PCIe by 16 slot, and that changes everything. Because now, suddenly, these boring office machines become upgradable gaming PCs. To save even more money, I specifically searched for barebone systems. That means no CPU, no RAM, no storage, sometimes not even a GPU. Basically just the case, motherboard, and power supply. And honestly, the prices are kind of insane. You can find systems like this for around $40 to $50. If you tried buying those same parts separately, you'd probably spend double or even triple the price just to get started. Of course, there are still some downsides to going this route, and trust me, we're about to run into those very soon. After digging around for a while, I finally found this HP ProDesk 600G3 for just $33, and the seller was very clear about what was included: just the case, motherboard, power supply, and cooler. No CPU, no RAM, no storage. Honestly, I didn't even think twice. I bought it immediately, and about 5 days later, the package finally arrived. Oh no, this thing was literally wrapped in a giant foam box. Not exactly professional looking, definitely not the kind of packaging you'd expect from a serious computer seller, but honestly, I didn't care, because sitting in front of me was a fully assembled HP Office PC ready to become something completely different. I'll leave the link in the description if you want to check it out yourself. Now let me show you the inside, and wow, it's actually really clean, like surprisingly clean. It almost looks new. Once I remove the hard drive cage, there's actually a decent amount of space in here, enough to fit a reasonably sized GPU, although some larger cards like the Radeon RX 580 are definitely too long to fit comfortably. As for RAM, it comes with 4 slots, which honestly feels like overkill for what I'm doing. There's also an NVMe PCIe slot, and even a connector for Wi-Fi. The power supply is proprietary, of course, but surprisingly powerful for an office machine. 250 watts on the 12-volt rail, more than enough for normal office work. There are also 2 PCIe by 16 slots, although only the top one runs at full by 16 speed. And yes, that's exactly where the graphics card is going. The socket here is 1151V1, which means I can choose from both 6th and 7th gen Intel CPU. Alright, so out of the $169 total budget, I've already spent $33 on the PC itself. That leaves me with roughly $136 for everything else. Now, realistically, if I want decent gaming performance, the GPU is the one thing I cannot cheap out on too hard. But this machine has one massive problem. The power supply is tiny. And even worse, there's no dedicated PCIe power connector for a graphics card. So normally, I'd be forced to choose something low power like a GTX 1650 or a GTX 1050 Ti. Cards that don't need external power and usually stay within the limits of the stock PSU. And honestly, the prices weren't bad either. Around $65, which fits perfectly into my budget without needing a new power supply. But then, I started looking for something a little more dangerous, a little more stupid. And that's when I found what honestly felt like hidden treasure, an Radeon RX 588GB 2048 SP. These cards usually go for around $60 to $70, but performance-wise, they absolutely destroy the GTX 1050 Ti, easily around 20% faster, sometimes even more depending on the game. But of course, there's a catch. This thing needs a 6-pin power connector and can pull up to 150 watts under load. The PCIe slot itself only provides 75 watts, meaning I'm still missing roughly half the power the card wants. And yeah, this is the dangerous part of the build. But then I realized something important. That 150 watt figure is the maximum power draw under full load, not what the card constantly uses all the time. So technically, there's still a chance this could work without replacing the power supply. To power the GPU, I'm using a SAE2 to 6-pin adapter. And surprisingly, a SAE2 connector can safely deliver around 54 watts on the 12-volt rail. Now, do I recommend this for long-term use? Probably not. But for this build, we're absolutely doing it anyway. I bought the adapter a long time ago, so I honestly don't remember the exact price. But judging by current eBay listings, used ones are only around $5 or so. Alright, now for the RAM. And if you've ever shopped for memory before, you've probably noticed something really annoying. RAM sticks with fancy heatsinks and RGB lighting are way more expensive. And honestly, that's exactly the kind of thing I'm willing to compromise on. So instead, I picked up two basic 8GB DDR4 sticks with no heatsinks at all. Simple, cheap, functional. The total for both was around $40. Now here's the scary part. After buying the GPU and RAM, I only had about $23 left, while still needing two critical parts, the CPU and the storage drive. At this point, I really didn't have many options left. For storage, I decided to go with the SATA SSD since it's cheaper than NVMe. Originally, I wanted a 256GB drive, but that immediately pushed me over budget, so I had to lower my expectations and settle for 128GB instead. Used, of course, and somehow I managed to get it for just $10. Now for the CPU. Originally, I wanted an Intel Core i7-7700 because it's basically the perfect match for this system. But there was one problem. The price. These things still cost over $40, which completely destroyed my budget. So instead, I found something way more interesting. A Xeon E3-1240 VSX. Performance-wise, it's extremely close to the i7-7700, but way cheaper. There's just one catch. You have to mod the BIOS for the motherboard to support it. And yeah, that part gets a little sketchy. To do the mod properly, you usually need tools like a CH341A programmer to flash the BIOS manually. Luckily, I had a technician near where I live handle the mod for me, so now the board runs the Xeon perfectly. And just like that, the build was finally complete. Honestly, for this kind of budget, I'm really happy with how it turned out. And I genuinely think you could build something similar yourself just by following this video. But before jumping into benchmarks, there's one important thing I need to do first. Undervolt the GPU. The goal is simple. Lower the power consumption without sacrificing performance. Then I stress tested the card to see how much power it actually pulls at full load. And surprisingly, under maximum load, the GPU only consumed around 80 watts. The power cable and SAE2 adapter were only slightly warm to the touch, which is honestly better than I expected. As long as you don't overclock the card with this tiny power supply, it's actually completely usable. Now it's finally time to see what this thing can actually do in real games. Starting with Minecraft at 32 chunks to really stress the CPU. And honestly, the results surprised me. FPS hovers close to 200, and in lighter scenes it even spikes past 1000 FPS, which is just ridiculous for a setup this cheap. But there is one downside. The frame rate isn't very stable. It jumps around constantly, especially when loading chunks. Then I switched over to shaders at 8 chunks, and wow, like it still manages around 45 frames per second. Not insanely high, but definitely enough to enjoy how beautiful the game looks with shaders enabled. Honestly, considering the age of these parts and how little they cost, this genuinely impressed me. And finally, the real graphics test, Cyberpunk 2077. This is where the GPU really gets pushed hard. And honestly, it's not bad at all. The game runs around 60 FPS, and most importantly, it almost never drops below 50, which makes it genuinely enjoyable to play. And seriously, thank you for watching all the way to the end.